वक्त के साथ साथ हमें अपने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में काफी ज्यादा बदलाव करने की जरूरत है। हमने ये भी सीखा कि पुलिस और आर्मी को हमें सिर्फ कंट्रोल सिर्फ एक लिमिट दायरे में देना चाहिए। हमें यह भी सीखा कि हमारे हिंदुस्तान में प्रोटेस्ट की जरूरत है, लेकिन पीसफुल प्रोटेस्ट होने चाहिए। हमने यह भी सीखा कि हर एक शहरी को बोलना चाहिए ताकि हमारी डेमोक्रेसी महफूज रहे। हमने यह भी सीखा कि हमारे आर्टिकल कितने ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है। हमने यह भी सीखा कि जयप्रकाश नारायण जैसे लीडर्स की हमें कितनी ज्यादा जरूरत है, जो कि हमारी डेमोक्रेसी को बैलेंस में रखते हैं। हमने यह भी सीखा
Thank you, Nishad. Now the next participant is Danish Ahmed Bare, serial number 39.
Serial number 39. Thank you so much, Speaker Sir, for giving me the opportunity to speak on this important topic. Honorable Speaker Sir, आज इस सदन में हम मौजूद है एक अहम मुद्दे पे बात करने के लिए, क्योंकि मुद्दा तो पुराना है, मुद्दा तो 50 साल पुराना है, लेकिन इसके असरात ऐसे थे कि आज भी जब हम इमरजेंसी के दौर को याद करते हैं तो हमें बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिलता है। स्पीकर सर, मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा कि 25 जून 1975 में जो इमरजेंसी प्रोक्लेम की गई थी बाय द देन प्रेसिडेंट फखरुद्दीन अली अहमद, वो इमरजेंसी दैट वाज प्रोक्लेम्ड दैट वाज अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल। मैं ये क्यों कहता हूं कि ये अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है, मैं दलील दूंगा। आर्टिकल 352 ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, इसमें एक टर्म है, तब एक टर्म थी इंटरनल डिस्टर्बेंस। तब ये एक्सक्यूज दिया गया कि देश में इंटरनल डिस्टर्बेंस है तो तभी इसको जो है ना हमें प्रोक्लेम करनी है। लेकिन अगर हम बाकी देखें ना, कोई इंटरनल डिस्टर्बेंस थी। उन्होंने अपनी सीट बचाने के लिए, उन्होंने पावर में रहने के लिए, जब उनको कुछ समझ नहीं आया तो उन्होंने इमरजेंसी को प्रोक्लेम कर दिया। कैसे? अगर हम बात करें नेशनलाइजेशन ऑफ बैंक केस की, इसमें भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इंदिरा गांधी के खिलाफ फैसला दिया था। अगर हम प्रेवी पर्स केस की बात करें, इसमें भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इंदिरा गांधी जी के खिलाफ फैसला दिया था। और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट केस जो था इलाहाबाद हाईकोर्ट का केस, इसमें इलाहाबाद हाईकोर्ट ने कहा कि 1971 में जो इंदिरा गांधी जी ने इलेक्शन जीता, उन्होंने वो अनफेयर तरीके से जीता। और ये जो कुछ चीजें थी, उस इस दबाव में आके इंदिरा गांधी जी ने फिर इमरजेंसी प्रोक्लेम की। यही नहीं, बल्कि जो बिहार में प्रोटेस्ट हुए विच वर लेड बाय द जयप्रकाश नारायण, तो ये भी एक रीजन बना कि इमरजेंसी को प्रोक्लेम किया गया। जब इमरजेंसी को प्रोक्लेम किया गया तो आप देखिए स्पीकर सर, आप देखिए कि प्रेस जो है ना, मीडिया, इसको कहते हैं फोर्थ पिलर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी। जब हम जमहूरियत के चौथे खंबे को ही अटैक करें, इस पे सेंसरशिप लगाए, इस पे बैन लगाए, देख सकते हैं कि उस वक्त जमहूरियत का कैसा जनाजा निकला होगा। तभी मैं इस इमरजेंसी के खिलाफ हूं, क्योंकि तब जो हुआ था वो कभी नहीं हुआ था। ये पहली बार नहीं था कि इंडिया में इमरजेंसी लागू हुई थी, नहीं, उससे पहले भी इमरजेंसी लागू हुई थी 1961 में, 1972 में, लेकिन तब रीजन जस्टिफाई थे दैट वर अंडर द आर्टिकल 352। मगर ये जो रीजन था, इट वाज नॉट जस्टिफाइड। हमें क्या समझा, इससे हमें यह सीखने को मिला, समटाइम्स लीगल टर्म्स कैन बी मिसयूज्ड। तभी 44th अमेंडमेंट के तहत जो टर्म इंटरनल डिस्टर्बेंस थी, उसको फिर आर्म्ड रेबिलियन बनाया गया, ताकि फ्यूचर में ये मुश्किल हो हर एक गवर्नमेंट के लिए कि वो आसानी से इमरजेंसी को डिक्लेयर ना कर सके। और इसके साथ साथ अगर हम देखें ना, इमरजेंसी के दौरान एडीएम जबलपुर का केस आया था, एडीएम जबलपुर वर्सेस शिवकांत शुक्ला। उसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट इतना सरकार के दबाव में आ गया था कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने यह फैसला दिया कि राइट टू लाइफ कैन बी सस्पेंडेड इन इमरजेंसी। आप देखिए जब लाइफ नहीं रहेगी तो क्या रहेगा, लेकिन सुप्रीम कोर्ट तब इतने कोर्ट गवर्नमेंट के दबाव में आ गए थे कि उन्होंने फैसला दिया कि इवन राइट टू लाइफ कैन बी सस्पेंडेड ड्यूरिंग इमरजेंसी। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Danish. All the participants are requested to please take care of the time, respect the scheduled time. Now, the next participant is Mukhtiar Ahmed, serial number 46.
Respected principal sir, honorable judge, and my dear friend, good morning to all of you. Today I am going to speak on a very sensitive topic. Very sensitive topic. 15 years of emergency. Lesson for Indian democracy. दोस्तों 1975 की इमरजेंसी हमें हमारी हिस्ट्री का वो पन्ना है जिसे द डार्केस्ट चैप्टर ऑफ इंडियन डेमोक्रेसी कहा जाता है। लेकिन 50 साल बाद आज सवाल ये नहीं कि हमने तब क्या सीखा था, सवाल ये है कि आज हमने उससे क्या सीखा। हमने उससे कुछ सीखा। इमरजेंसी ने हमें सिखाया कि एब्सोल्युटली पावर हमेशा बेहिसाब ताकत हमेशा करप्शन और डिक्टेटरशिप की तरफ ले जाती है। उस दौर में हमने देखा कि कैसे हमारे फंडामेंटल राइट को एक ही झटके में छीन लिया गया था। आज जब हम विकसित भारत 2047 के सपने देखते हैं तो हमें याद रखना चाहिए, हमें याद करना होगा कि असली ताकत वहां है जहां हमारे डेमोक्रेटिक इंस्टीट्यूशन, जुडिशरी, मीडिया और इलेक्शन कमीशन पूरी तरह से आजाद और मजबूत हों। अगर ये पिलर कमजोर हुए तो हमारी डेमोक्रेसी एक खाली ढांचा यानी कि स्ट्रक्चर बन के रह जाएगी। हमें सिर्फ एक वोटर नहीं बनना, हमें एक विजिलेंट सिटीजन बनना है। हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सिर्फ एक किताब नहीं है, ये एक लिविंग डॉक्यूमेंट है जो हमें पावर देता है। लेकिन ये पावर तभी काम करेगा जब हम सवाल उठाएंगे। दोस्तों सवाल ही डेमोक्रेसी की ऑक्सीजन है। It is a responsibility we must protect. If the constitution is challenged, our silence is the biggest to our future. So let's be the voice of a strong democratic India. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mukhtar. Next participant is Hashmat Hamid. Is Hashmat Hamid present?
Greetings everyone. I am Hashmat Hamid, a third year BA student from the Department of Public Administration. Today, I want to speak to you very clearly, very honestly, like just we are having a casual conversation regarding something that concerns all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are not here to just remember history. We are here to laugh it a little because sometimes satire is the best cure for the political fever. 50 years ago, India went through one of its most important talked about chapter, the emergency, which was declared on 25th June 1975 by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. History books called it as constitutional crisis, suspension of civil liberty, and press censorship. But if we look at with humor, it feels like democracy was politely told, have a short vacation, we will do everything without you. For 21 months, newspaper had to think twice before publishing any news. Opposition leaders discovered that government accommodation could mean a jail cell. And citizens learned that freedom of speech has a hidden volume button which is controlled by someone else. But here's the thing, democracy in India is like that stubborn relative at a wedding where you switch off the light, play the sound system, and ask them to leave. But they will still, but what they do, they will still find their way back to the dance floor. This is what exactly happened on 1977 when elections were held and the people spoke louder than any censorship ever could. The emergency taught us a big lesson. Power without accountability is dangerous. Institutions matter, a free press matter, an area public matter. After that, changes were made, so such sweeping powers could not be misused again. In a way, democracy went through a stress test and came out stronger. Looking back after 50 years, we don't just see darkness, we see resilience. India, India corrected itself not with bullets but with ballots. And the fact that we can openly discuss, debate, and even joke about that time today proves that one of the important topic that is democracy survived. So the greatest lesson from those 21 months in this 21 months is this that freedom should never be taken for granted. It should be protected. It should be questioned. And yes, sometimes locked about so we will never forget its value because sometimes history may repeat itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshman. My next call goes to Amreen Kaur, serial number.
Greetings and salutations to every praiseworthy person present here. I am Amreen Kaur, student of GDC Baramulla, and I feel really honorable in front of you all. I am standing here and talking. Even I am delivering my speech on the day that everyone has seen as the most darkest day in the histories. Those 21 months were very hard for everyone who were present there. ये सिर्फ उन 21 महीनों की बात नहीं है या फिर उस 21 दिनों की बात नहीं है ये बात है हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की हमारे लॉ की कि कैसे ऐसा हो सकता है कोई भी प्रेसिडेंट कोई भी प्राइम मिनिस्टर उठ के खुद ही कोई भी लॉ कोई भी चीज इम्पोज कर दे ये कैसे हो सकता है क्या हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन उस टाइम पे इतना कह सकते हैं कि इतना कमजोर था कि कुछ भी उठ के कैसे भी प्रेस को एकदम डिप्रेस किया जाए आपका क्या कहना है इस बात के ऊपर कि प्रेस को इतना डिप्रेस किया गया था कि कोई न्यूज नहीं आ सकती थी बहुत सारे पॉलिटिशियंस स्टूडेंट्स इवन कि हमें राइट है कि हम प्रोटेस्ट निकाल सकते हैं पीसफुली उन चीजों के बारे में जो चीजें हमें अच्छी नहीं लगती हमारी गवर्नमेंट अच्छी नहीं कर रही है उन लोगों तक को बगैर किसी ट्रायल के बगैर किसी चीज के बगैर किसी बात के एकदम जेल में डाल दिया गया मैं लैंग्वेज यूज कर रही हूँ कि हम कनेक्ट कर सकें हम इस बात को समझ सकें आज सिर्फ ये पेपर नहीं बोल रहा है आज ये वो इमोशंस बोल रहे हैं जो उस टाइम से आज तक दिल में बसे हुए हैं इट बीइंग 15 इयर्स कितनी इंजरीज कितनी कैजुअलिटीज कितना कुछ हुआ कि आज तक इस बारे में बात हुई कि आज तक हमने ये सोचा कि हमारी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में इतनी कितनी कमजोरी है कि कोई भी उठ के कुछ भी कर दे फिर उसके बाद कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में अमेंडमेंट्स हुई बहुत चीजें हुई। क्या आप सबको लगता है कि हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में हमारे जितना भी लॉ है इसमें कहीं ना कहीं ऐसे लूप होल्स हैं जहां पे अभी भी हमें वर्क करने की जरूरत है? सब आएंगे, सब स्टेज पे बोलेंगे कि इंदिरा गांधी ने ये किया था, जो हमारी ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर रह चुकी हैं उन्होंने ये किया था। क्या कोई ये चीज बोले? क्या कोई एक बार ये चीज सोचे कि हुआ क्या था? क्या कोई एक बार ये चीज सोचे कि कितनी कुछ गुजरी होगी लोगों के ऊपर, जिनके ऊपर ट्रायल्स तक नहीं हुए? मेरी स्पीच यहीं पे खत्म होती है। थैंक यू ऑल।
Thank you, Amreen. The next participant is Adfar Ali, serial number 50.
Honorable Chairperson, respected judge, and my fellow young parliamentarians, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Adfar Ali from Government Degree College Women, Sopor. I stand before you to speak on a chapter of Indian history that still shakes the foundation of our democracy. 50 years of emergency lesson for Indian democracy. 25th of June 1975. ये सिर्फ एक डेट नहीं थी, ये वो रात थी जब भारत की आवाज को खामोश कर दिया गया। ये वो रात थी जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को लॉक कर दिया गया। ये वो रात थी जब आजादी को सस्पेंड कर दिया गया। Under Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, emergency was declared under Article 352. And official reason was given internal disturbances. मगर असल में डिस्टर्ब हुआ क्या था? डेमोक्रेसी डिस्टर्ब हुई थी, फ्रीडम डिस्टर्ब हुई थी, ट्रस्ट डिस्टर्ब हुआ था, सिविल लिबर्टीज डिस्टर्ब हो गई थी, प्रेस को कंसर्ट किया गया था, अपोजिशन लीडर्स को अरेस्ट कर लिया था, इंक्लूडिंग जयप्रकाश नारायण। फंडामेंटल राइट्स जो हर सिटीजन का शील्ड होते हैं, उनको फ्रीज कर दिया गया था। मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ, जब गवर्नमेंट क्रिटिसिज्म से डरने लगे, जब सवाल पूछना जुर्म बन जाए, तो क्या वो डेमोक्रेसी है? क्या वो डेमोक्रेसी रह जाती है? When dissent becomes a crime, democracy becomes a prisoner. Our constitution was drafted under the visionary leadership of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, guaranteed us justice, liberty and equality. लेकिन इमरजेंसी ने हमें एक सख्त सबक दिया। डेमोक्रेसी सिर्फ इलेक्शन का नाम नहीं होता। It's about freedom. Freedom to speak, freedom to question, freedom to disagree. Our constitution was designed to prevent the misuse of absolute power. Yet the emergency revealed the hard truth. No constitution is self-executing. Its strength depends on institutions, its survival depends on citizens, and its dignity depends on accountability. However, history didn't end in 1975. In 1977, elections were held, and the people of India delivered a verdict that resonated across the world. The ballot defeated the authoritarianism. The voters restored constitutional morality. The people reminded the government sovereignty belongs to the people. ये था इंडियन डेमोक्रेसी का असली इम्तिहान. And guess what? India passed. Today, 50 years later, we must be beyond emotions and focus on the lessons. Lesson number 1, institutions must remain independent. And lesson number 2, democracy requires active citizens. As a youth, हम सिर्फ spectators नहीं हो सकते. We must be informed. We must be engaged. We must be courageous enough to question respectfully but firmly. Thank you so much. Due to limitation of time, I cannot deliver everything.
Thank you, Adfar. My next call is for Fokia Parvez, serial number 52. 53, sorry, 53. Fokia Parvez. Is she here?
अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन। आज मैं सिर्फ एक हिस्टोरिकल इवेंट के बारे में बात नहीं कर रही। आज मैं बात कर रही हूँ एक वार्निंग की, एक लेसन की और एक रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की। टॉपिक है 50 years of emergency, a lesson for Indian democracy। सोचिए, एक ऐसी सुबह जहां आवाज हो लेकिन बोलने की आजादी नहीं, न्यूज़पेपर हो लेकिन सच लिखने की इजाजत नहीं, इलेक्शंस हो लेकिन कोई हकीकी चॉइस नहीं। 25 जून 1975 एक ऐसी ही रात थी, एक ऐसी रात जब डेमोक्रेसी ने खुद को टेस्ट होते हुए देखा, महसूस किया कि मुझे टेस्ट किया जा रहा है। उस वक्त की प्राइम मिनिस्टर इंदिरा गांधी डिक्लेयर्ड इमरजेंसी। लेकिन अब सवाल उठता है, किस चीज की, किस बात की इमरजेंसी थी? इमरजेंसी थी आवाज की, इमरजेंसी थी फ्रीडम की, इमरजेंसी थी और राइट्स की जो हमें कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन देती है। मीडिया वाज कंट्रोल्ड, अपोजिशन लीडर्स वाज अरेस्टेड और देश में एक साइलेंस क्रिएट हो गई। लेकिन ये साइलेंस सिर्फ बाहर थी, लोगों के दिलों में अभी भी डेमोक्रेसी थी। दिस पीरियड टीच अस समथिंग वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। डेमोक्रेसी इज नॉट सेल्फ सफिशिएंट, इट नीड्स प्रोटेक्शन। डेमोक्रेसी सिर्फ वोटिंग का नाम नहीं है, इट्स अबाउट फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच, रूल ऑफ लॉ, अकाउंटेबिलिटी एंड रेस्पेक्ट फॉर ह्यूमन राइट्स। 1977 के इलेक्शंस ने दुनिया को एक स्ट्रॉन्ग मैसेज दी, इंडिया की डेमोक्रेसी वीक नहीं है। लोगों ने वोट देकर पीसफुली साबित किया कि हमारी डेमोक्रेसी वीक नहीं है। इट प्रूव्ड दैट पावर अल्टीमेटली लाइज विद द पीपल। आज 50 साल बाद, 50 years later, हमें सिर्फ हिस्ट्री याद नहीं रखनी है, हमें इसे सीखना है। Because democracy does not die in one day. Democracy dies when people stop questioning. It dies when people stop caring. इसलिए हमारी रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बनती है कि हम अवेयर सिटीजन्स बने, हम अपने बारे में सोचें, हम अपनी राइट्स को देखें, हमारे राइट्स क्या है, हमारे फंडामेंटल राइट्स क्या है। और अब कंक्लूजन में बोलूंगी, इमरजेंसी एक डार्क चैप्टर जरूर था, लेकिन उसने इंडियन डेमोक्रेसी को एक स्ट्रॉन्ग नेशन बना दिया। लेट्स रिमेंबर पास्ट, प्रोटेक्ट द प्रेजेंट एंड सिक्योर द फ्यूचर। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Fokia. The next call is for Arthur John, serial number 57.
Democracy. Democracy doesn't disappear in a single moment. It weakens when people slowly stop questioning. Respected chairperson, honorable judge, and my dear friends, Assalamu alaikum. Today, as we reflect on 50 years of the Indian emergency in 1975, we are not just remembering, we are trying to understand a warning. What warning it was, I will just right now that you know. In 1975, something changed in India. Fundamental rights were suspended, voices were restricted, Newspapers were controlled. So, and gradually people became silent. It didn't happen in a single day, no. It happened step by step until speaking freely itself became difficult. But the most important question is, what did we learn from it? For me, the biggest answer for this question is, and the simplest answer for this question is, rights written in the Constitution are not enough unless people have the courage to use them, right? So, because democracy is not only about laws, it's about people. And when I think about this, standing here in Kashmir, this topic feels more real. Like we understand what it feels when life becomes uncertain, when people feel their peace feels delicate, and when expressing yourself is not always easy. We understand that democracy is not just a system, it's something that we experience every day. And that's why the emergency is not just a history, a chapter of history. It's a warning, it's a reminder. What reminder? A reminder that silence can be dangerous. A reminder that power needs accountability. A reminder that awareness is necessary. Because when people stop asking questions, things start changing without anyone noticing. But today the situation is different. In 1975, control was visible, though restrictions and censorships. But today, it can be invisible. Let me understand how. We live in a digital world right now, right? So, where information is everywhere, everyone has the right to information, but the truth is not always clear. As a student of computer science, I see something important that data has power. The way information is shown to us, the way opinions are shaped, all of this can influence how we think, how the young minds of India think. And sometimes, without realizing it, we may stop questioning. And when questioning stops, democracy slowly weakens. Let us not forget that lesson, not as history, but as responsibility. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arfar. The next call is for Bushra Tariq, serial number 58. Bushra Tariq.
Initiating with the name of Almighty Allah, who is most gracious, most merciful, creator and destroyer of this whole universe. I welcome you all with Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum to all of you. Well, history doesn't repeat itself louder. History doesn't repeat itself louder. It whispers a warning. Today, I speak in front of you to speak about that warning which I'm talking about, that is the warning of 1975. The architect of the Constitution, B.R. Ambedkar, his wise code by a wise man. However good a constitution may be, but those who are implementing it, if they are not good, it doesn't matter. So this is where I'm spotting in. In 1975, this warning became reality. On 25th June 1957, national emergency was declared. Fundamental rights were suspended. Opposition leaders were arrested. The press was censored. Since the press was censored, do you even imagine of this very particular thing? Let me remind you guys, if the press is censored, there will be no such clear information regarding things over. There will be no such criteria on which we can decide what currently is happening. Since the media was censored, there was neither the truth which was about to get revealed. Let me speak honestly. The desire for discouraged institutions were pressured, fear replaced freedom. But the emergency was not just a political event, it was constitutional stress test. And it gave us three powerful lessons. First, power without accountability is dangerous. Second, institutions are as important as rest of the things are.
And independent judiciary, a free pass, and active opposition are not obstacles to the governance. They are safeguards of democracy. Let me repeat again. In 1977, the people of India voted. Through balloted, it was declared that how India's secret cannot be clearly imprisoned. It waited that when citizens become silent, it suffers when the power goes unquestioned. As young participants in this youth parliament, the responsibility now shifts to us. We must question responsibility. We must participate actively. We must protect the constitutional values. We must protect constitutional values fearlessly because democracy is not self sustaining. Democracy, since it's not self sustaining, we should protect it. It survives only when we defend it. Let us ensure that the lesson of 1975 remains lesson and it never becomes reality. It never comes true again. Thanks, have a nice day.
Thank you. My next call is for Saeed Daruj, serial number 18. Saeed Daruj.
May I have your attention, please? Democracy does not collapse in a single day. It does not even shatter. It does not even shatter with one loud explosion. It erodes slowly. When institutions weaken, when citizens grow silent, and when power goes unchecked, honorable dignitaries, respected jury members, and my dear friends, I am Said Aruj, a final year law student, and today I invite you to travel back to a night when India, the world's largest democracy, stopped breathing. 25th of June 1975. The clock struck midnight, but it was not an ordinary midnight. It was the beginning of the silence. The then Prime Minister declared a national emergency under Article 352 of the Indian Constitution, citing internal disturbance. What followed was not merely a constitution political decision, but it was a constitutional disruption. Civil liberties were suspended, opposition leaders were arrested overnight, and the right to press was censored, and the right to protest was criminalized. And in the famous ADM Jabalpur versus Shivdan Shukla case, the Supreme Court ruled that even Article 21, that is, the right to liberty and life, could be suspended during emergency. Can you imagine that? The very right to live was left at the mercy of the state? And years later, L.K. Advani famously remarked to the media, when you were asked to bend, you chose to crawl. And those moments still echo as a reminder of how fragile institutions can become when fear replaces freedom. And yet, 1977 proved something extraordinary. When elections were finally held, the people of India delivered their verdict. The ballot defeated Batten. The vote defeated fear. That moment showed the resilience of Indian democracy and the maturity of its electorate. 50 years later, the emergency is not just a chapter in the history books. Even debates continue around preventive detention laws, the restrictions on dissent, misuse of state machinery, and the labeling of the political opponents as anti national. The greatest lesson of emergency is simple. In India, the ultimate power does not lie in the parliament, it does not lie in the executive, it does not even lie in the judiciary, it lies with the people. And when the people speak, history changes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can we have our next participant, Sadia Javed, serial number 11?
सिस्टम में बंद सिस्टम में कुछ चल रहा
Respected Chairman, honorable members of jury, distinguished faculty, and my fellow young delegates. My name is Sadia Javed, and I am a student of GDC Baramulla, and today I stand before you with a deep sense of responsibility and privilege to deliberate upon a defining chapter in the constitutional journey of our nation. That is 50 years of emergency, lesson for our Indian democracy. On the night of 25th June 1975, while India slept, democracy did not. It was suspended. No foreign invasion happened. No tax was rolled in. Yet freedom stopped breathing. The emergency was declared. Fundamental rights were suspended. Opposition leaders were imprisoned. Press was censored. And fair became policy. But today, 50 years later, I do not simply stand here to criticize the past. I stand here to ask the question how fragile the freedom is. Because emergency taught us something very uncomfortable. Democracy does not collapse in one single explosion. It weakens in silent compromises when institutions stop questioning, when media stop investigating, when citizens stop caring, democracy begins to fade. And that is the first lesson. Democracy is not automatic, it is intentional. My dear listeners, it requires courage not just from the political leaders, it requires courage from the ordinary citizens. The second lesson is even more powerful. That is, in 1977, the people of India voted and they removed the government which imposed the emergency. Think about that. No bloodshed, no violence, no revolution happened, just a simple vote. And that proves something extraordinary. 50 years later, democracy does not only face the threat of censorship, it faces blind loyalty, it faces polarization, it faces misinformation. It is the harsh truth of our society. So, the real question is have we truly learned the lessons of 1957 or we have just memorized it for the examination purpose? We must understand a nation is not measured by GDP only. It is measured how freely its citizen can speak, it is measured how freely its citizen can question, and it is measured how freely its citizen can disagree. Honorable jury members, the emergency was not just a political event, it was a warning that democracy survives not because it is written in constitution, but because it lives in the conscience of the people. Let's promise today never to misuse freedom, never to be silent when rights are threatened, and never to forget that democracy survives only because of seasons. The emergency was a test which India passed. Honorable jury members, the question is not whether India learned from the emergency. The question is have we learned from the democracy. Thank you so much.
Now I request serial number 19, Said Palak, to come on stage.
बोल कि लब आजाद है तेरे, बोल जुबां अब तक तेरी है. Honorable dignitaries and everyone present right here, these words reminds us that freedom of speech is the soul of democracy. On the night of June 25th, 1975, India changed. There were no tanks in the streets and no war at the borders. Instead, democracy was suspended by a single signature under the Article 352 of our Constitution. Today, 50 years later, Today, 50 years later, we are not just talking about history, we are talking about a survival lesson for our nation. The numbers from that time are startling. Over 1.1 lakh people, from students to national leaders, were jailed under MIS Act. They had no trial and no bail. The press was silenced. And most shockingly, the famous ATM Jabalpur court case, it was argued that during an emergency, a citizen was not even allowed the right to life under Article 21. So, what are the three big lessons that we must carry into the future? Lesson number one: laws are as good as the people who run them. The emergency showed us that even the best constitution can be misused if our institutions like the court and media become weak or silent. A Viskit Bharat needs strong institutions, not just strong individuals. Lesson number two: freedom is not a gift, it's a responsibility. In 1978, we passed the 44th Amendment to fix the laws so that internal disturbance could never be used as an excuse to snatch away our basic rights. We learned that we must be awake and alert. Lesson number three: the power of the ordinary citizen. In 1977, when elections finally happened, people of India used their votes to bring the democracy back. It proved that in India, the real boss is the voter. Ladies and gentlemen, 50 years later, the emergency is a reminder that democracy is a flame. It needs to be protected every single day. Let's remember 1975 not with anger but with promise that freedom for comfort, because nation is truly developed only if its citizens are truly free. Thank you so much.
Can we have Danish Yaqub Bhatt on stage? Serial number 25.
I'm audible? पहले मैं आप सबसे एक सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं। अगर कल सुबह आप उठे और आपको बताया जाए कि आप बोल नहीं सकते, आप लिख नहीं सकते, अखबार सच नहीं छाप सकते, या क्या हम उस टाइम खुद को आजाद कहेंगे? Obviously नहीं. Assalamu alaikum, respected chairperson, honorable jury members, and my dear friends. Today I stand before you to speak about 50 years of emergency, lessons for Indian democracy. साथियों, सन 1975 में मुल्क हिंदुस्तान ने नई सुबह देखी जब इंदिरा गांधी जी की जानिब से इमरजेंसी नाफिज की गई, जिस इमरजेंसी के दौरान इज़हार राय की आजादी महदूद कर दी गई, सिविल लिबर्टीज को फ्रीज किया गया, या अखबारात पर सेंसरशिप नाफिज की गई, या फंडामेंटल राइट्स को कर्टेल किया गया, या हम यूं कहेंगे ब्रीच किया गया फंडामेंटल राइट्स को, लोकनायक जयप्रकाश नारायण जैसे रहनुमाओं को गिरफ्तार किया गया, या 1 लाख से तकरीबन 1 लाख से ऊपर लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया, या वेस्कोटामी स्टरलाइजेशन का भी इल्जाम लगाया गया जनाब संजय गांधी पर। लिहाजा मैं यही कहूंगा कि इमरजेंसी के दौरान बुनियादी हुकूकों को महदूद रखा गया, जिससे लोगों की आवाज को दबाया गया। इमरजेंसी बिजाती खुद गैर आईनी नहीं थी, लेकिन सवाल यह है कि क्या 1975 में उस वक्त इस इख्तियार का इस्तेमाल जमहूरी तरीके से किया गया? क्या जमहूरी रूह के मुताबिक ये इस्तेमाल किया गया था उस दिन इस इमरजेंसी को? बिल्कुल नहीं। आइन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इख्तियार देता है, मगर जमहूरियत उस इख्तियार के मोहतत और जिम्मेदाराना इस्तेमाल का नाम है। लिहाजा इमरजेंसी ने हमें यह सबक दिया कि आईनी ताकत अगर इखलाकी जिम्मेदारी के बगैर इस्तेमाल हो तो जमहूरियत कमजोर हो सकती है। और इसके बाद 1977 ने यह साबित किया, इस मुल्क के हिंदुस्तान के लोगों ने साबित किया कि असल ताकत कुर्सी पर नहीं बल्कि वोट पर है, बल्कि वोट पर आधारित है। तो आइए सब हम अहद करते हैं, हम सब मिलकर जमहूरी इक्तिदार की हिफाजत करेंगे और अपने देश को विकसित भारत की ओर लेकर जाएंगे। ये हमें 50 साल हम इस वक्त तकरीबन इमरजेंसी को हुए हैं और हम इस वक्त इस पर बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन क्या हम तो ये हमने इस विषय पर अपनी बात रखी। जमहूरियत जिंदाबाद।
Now I request serial number 10, SK Atiful Riyaz, to come on stage.
Honorable Principal Sir, esteemed jury members, dear participants and volunteers, Assalamu alaikum to all of you. Myself Atif, and today I am here to talk about the emergency of 1975 and the lessons for Indian democracy as a result of emergency. So 50 years and 7 months have passed after the emergency was declared on 25th of June 1975. The emergency lasted from 25th of June 1975 to 21st of March 1977. So this 21-month period is often referred to as the darkest chapter of Indian democracy. This period witnessed the arrest of over 1 lakh people and the suspension of fundamental rights. Now, coming to the key lessons for Indian democracy as a result of emergency of 1975. So the first lesson is that people should remain vigilant, because emergency demonstrated us how quickly democratic institutions can be subverted when power is concentrated. So the citizens must remain vigilant against the early signs of authoritarianism to prevent the democratic backsliding. The second lesson is that there should be an independent and powerful judiciary and a free press. Even press and judiciary were not able to save the arrestees during the emergency. The third lesson is that there should be presence of constitutional safeguards. Post-emergency in 1978, 44th constitutional amendment was passed, which prevented the further misuse of emergency provisions of the constitution. So, for loopholes, constitutional amendments should be passed so that the citizens will not suffer in difficult times. And the fourth and last lesson is uh, uh, that ultimate power in a democracy resides with the voters, the citizens of the country. Because the government declaring emergency in 1975 was punished by defeating by was punished by being defeated in elections held just after the emergency was revoked. Thank you.
सर हम ब्रेक कितने बजे लेंगे? Around 1. Okay. Then let me call on stage. Is Hafsa here? No, Hafsa is not here. Ikra Javed. Ikra Javed. Serial number 61.
On 25th of June 1975, midnight did not just change the date, it changed the destiny of Indian democracy. But what did that silence teach us? What learn did we get from that emergency? 50 years have passed, but the emergency is not just a chapter in our history books. It's a reminder written in silence. The silence of censored newspapers, the silence of imprisoned voices, the silence of suspended freedom. But, young parliamentarians, youth of our nation, I am addressing to all of you, but out of that silence rose something stronger. It rose in the courage of voters standing in long queues in 1977. It rebuilt in the resilience of institutions that rebuild themselves. It rose in the belief that constitution is not just on ink on the paper, it is the will of people. The emergency taught India a very painful truth. Rights can be taken away, votes can be suppressed, and freedom can definitely be suppressed, but power can also become concentrated. But it also taught us a very hopeful truth that democracy, when awakened, corrects itself. Today, the lesson is definitely not about fear. Instead, it's about responsibility. Responsibility of all of us. Because democracy does not collapse in one dramatic moment. Newspapers carrying blank spaces. It fades when citizens we stop questioning. It weakens when institutions stop resisting. And it disappears when we stop caring. So, as today we are remembering 1975, let us not remember it as a warning. Instead, let's remember it as a promise. A promise that no matter how dark the night is, the Constitution will find its dawn as long as we, the people, choose to defend it. Thank you.
Now I request Anusha Mariam. Anusha Mariam ne bola? नहीं. Anusha Mariam, serial number 64.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Anusha Mariam. Abraham Lincoln once defined democracy as government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Yet history forces us to ask a troubling question. What happens when the very people who are the heart of democracy are silenced, detained, and denied their fundamental rights? India confronted this reality in 1975 during the emergency, one of the most crucial moments in the history of Indian democracy. As we mark the 50 years of the emergency, we are reminded of a period that tested our constitutional values and collective conscience. In June 1975, a national emergency was proclaimed under the supervision of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, suspending the fundamental rights and democratic processes. Political opponents were denied, press freedom was curtailed, and civil liberties were sharply restricted. For 21 years, India witnessed how democratic norms can be overridden when power is concentrated. And there goes a saying that events may belong to the past, but their lessons belong to the present. From this experience emerged several enduring lessons for Indian democracy. The first and most important lesson of the emergency is that no democracy, however strong it appears, is immune to authoritarian drift. The episode revealed how constitutional provisions can be misguided, misused when institutions such as the judiciary, the media, and the civil societies are weakened or pressured. Democracy serves not merely through laws, but through institutions willing to stand up to power. The second lesson is the centrality of political accountability. Leaders are entrusted with authority by the people and must govern within constitutional limits. The electoral defeat of those who imposed the emergency reframed a timeless democratic truth. That is, the ultimate authority in a democracy rests with the citizens. Finally, the emergency teaches us the need to place democratic values above short term political interest. It showed how personal and political insecurity can erode constitutional morality and place democracy itself at a risk. As an Urdu saying reminds us, जमहूरियत का असली इम्तिहान संविधान की हिफाजत में है. In conclusion, 50 years of emergency serves both as a warning and a lesson. The democracy is not self-sustaining. It requires constant vigilance, commitment to constitutional principles. It's a reminder that democracy must be protected by everyone, by leaders, by institutions, and above all, by people. Thank you.
Now I request serial number 20, Rohan Buro, to come on stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the night of 25th of June 1975, India did not witness a military coup. There were no tanks, no gunfires, and no foreign invasion. And yet, something far more dangerous happened. The democracy was switched off. Under the proclamation issued by Indira Gandhi, a national emergency was declared under Article 352, citing internal disturbance. Overnight, fundamental rights were suspended, and all the rights and press were censored. Opposition leaders like Jaya Prakash Narayan were arrested, and habeas corpus petitions failed. For those 21 months, the constitution remained in force, but the constitutional freedom did not. And that is the paradox we must confront today. Because the emergency was definitely legal, but was it legitimate? Because democracy is merely not about what is permitted by law, it is about what is justified by conscience. So 50 years later, let's not drift into nostalgia or the partisan blame, but ask a core question. And here I say, तू इधर उधर की ना बात कर, ये बता के काफिला क्यों लूटा?
Why were the voices of imprisoned and why was the press censored? Why did they require the permission to speak? This couplet is not an accusation, it is accountability. But the story of emergency is not only about the power, it is about the story of those citizens of India who refused to vote. Because in 1977, the elections happened and the citizens of India showed their power through ballot and voted out the government. And the 44th Constitutional Amendment secured safeguards to prevent the future misuse. So, what are the lessons for our generation, the youth of 2026? First, never ever normalize the erosion of your rights, especially your fundamental rights. Second, institutions are the spine of our democracy. A free press, a free judiciary, and a vigilant parliament are not luxuries, they are necessities. We are the generation that have not witnessed the emergency. But does that mean we are exempt from its lessons? So 50 years later, the question is not whether 1975 was right or wrong. The real question is, if democracy is ever tested again, what will we do? Will we question? Will we debate? Will we defend our constitution? So let this youth parliament remember that power can temporarily silence the voices, but it can never permanently bow down a nation whose youth refuses to vote. So as long as constitutional morality guides us, and as long as citizens chooses liberty over convenience, no emergency can take over the soul of India ever again. With this, I, Rohan Rafiq from the Department of Political Science, may take your leave. Thank you.
Now we will have a half an hour break. We will assemble here for the left out participants at the felicitation ceremony at 1:30 p.m. sharp. Please be on time because then it will be late for because it's Ramzan today. So at 1:30 p.m. everybody will assemble here. Thank you.